Do you want to make this year your best financial year yet? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Get Started Investing, a podcast where we unpack everything that you need to know to start or grow your investing journey. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce. Very excited for this episode. Very excited for this series. May I even say it? Very excited for this year.
Yes. Happy New Year.
We are on a journey to make 2025 our best financial year yet. And we're stoked that you're joining us on the journey and you're coming along for the ride. We're kicking off this year with a 5-part series.
Yep.
All designed to help us start 2025 on the right note.
That's right. We'll be guiding you through the essentials from building a strong financial foundation, setting up the right tools, to mastering your saving, investing, and spending. And by the end of this, you'll have the knowledge and skills to tackle the year ahead with confidence and smash your financial goals.
By the end of this series, you might not need to listen to any more podcasts.
Yeah, we hope that you do. Welcome to all of the new members who have joining us for the very first time. If you're an existing listener, this is going to be a great refresher. Ren and I always like doing this series at the start of the year to make sure that we're on track and we're set up for 2025.
And speaking of being on track, we're going to be sharing a lot of how we're going throughout this series, what our goals are, how we're spending and saving. Bryce is going to share his bank account details. And we're also going to be sharing what we're going to be buying in our core and our satellite portfolios in 2025. So we want to get really practical and we want to be, I guess, really transparent in the interest of showing how we're approaching the year. And hopefully you can learn from what we're doing well and certainly some of our mistakes as well.
Now, our producer, Sophie, has created a handbook that goes with each of these episodes. So if you want some materials to continue your education around these topics, there will be a link in the show notes for you to download that as we go. But let's start this episode. Today is all about the foundations, the basics.
Yes, the financial health check.
The bedrock of building wealth.
Yes. So, we're going to talk about the sexy stuff, investing and the like throughout this series. But this is about making sure your financial house is secure. It's
the windows are in, the floors are done.
Yeah.
The roof is on.
The concrete slab's been laid, and then you can build on top of it. Because really, the biggest thing that can really disrupt your wealth building journey, your investing journey, whatever you want to call it, is like an unexpected emergency and unexpected cost that forces you to sell your investments or go into debt. And it can really knock you off course. In this episode, we've got 4, financial foundations, 4 things that we think everyone should start with, tick off, and then move on to the sexy stuff. So what are they, Bryce?
Number 1, get your emergency fund sorted. Number 2, make sure you are protected with insurance. Number 3, make sure your superannuation is optimized. And number 4, don't start investing unless you have no bad debt. So get out of debt.
Yes. So we're not on this journey alone, Bryce.
No.
The great thing about the community we've built here at Equity Mates and on the Get Started Investing podcast is there are thousands of people just like us who are trying to get smarter with their money, trying to build wealth. And we went out to the community and asked them what they're working on or what they want to improve in 2025.
My financial goals for 2025 are to get ahead a bit on me and my partner's mortgage, to start regularly investing and have a strategy that works for us, and also go on a holiday overseas at some stage for a week or 2.
I'm wedding planning next year, so I think have to still be able to invest and save similar to this year, so something might have to give maybe a bit less holidays or a bit less clothes shopping.
Increase my core portfolio to $20,000.
Hit the big honey thou so the gains go parabolic.
Thank you to all of those Get Started Investing community members. It's great to hear you all thinking about your financial foundations. Now let's get stuck into it. As we said, the first thing when it comes to pouring that concrete slab is your emergency fund. Life is unpredictable, Ren, and so having an emergency fund, a backup there to protect you for unexpected expenses is incredibly important, because what you don't want to be doing is putting a lot of time and effort into growing a portfolio and a savings account and then having to withdraw all of that money because you don't have an emergency fund sitting there.
Why did you say a portfolio and a savings account?
Well, because
The emergency fund is a savings account.
No, as in like a house deposit, for example, or like you're saving for a holiday, and then an emergency pops up and you have to drain that.
Yeah.
To fund your emergency.
Okay. Look, I think when we start with emergency funds, one thing we've noticed over the years of doing this podcast is the finance industry can't agree on anything. Property v stocks, growth v value. Like, if you have an opinion in finance, you can find someone who has the opposite opinion. Except for emergency funds. It is the one thing that every advisor, every financial expert, every idiot doing a podcast will agree that the emergency fund is really the first priority. Just having that cash so you don't have to go into debt, a high interest rate, like the worst form of consumer debt, or you don't have to sell your emergency funds, or Bryce doesn't have to liquidate his holiday fund.
That's right. Oh, gosh, I would hate to do that. So the question is then, how do you figure out how much you need in your emergency fund and then budget for it accordingly? A rule of thumb is, industry rule of thumb is 3 months of expenses. I have seen it go as high as 6 if you're self-employed. So that gives you a start. Another one is the average time that it takes to get a job in your industry.
Yeah, I saw this recently and I thought it made a lot of sense. Like, what's the most in-demand skill at the moment? I don't know. If you're a Sparky or if you're a software developer, you probably aren't going to need 6 months worth of expenses until you get another job. Whereas what's the least in-demand job? If you're a podcaster, you might need more than 6 months because I'm not sure there's a line of people hoping to hire us. So I think it's start with 1 month, build up to 3. And then over time you can grow it even further. And if you feel like you're in an industry where perhaps your skills aren't highly sought after, like, you'd be erring on the side of having it.
I would caveat though that it's an emergency fund's not only just because it might not be just because you've lost a job.
Of course.
So, but it's a good starting point. And from a personal experience, this is probably the most boring and unexciting, same thing, foundational thing to work towards. You feel like you're wasting your money putting it in there and letting it sit, but trust me, once you get it done, you will thank yourself.
Yeah. I think the important thing as well is don't go too hard. Like, sometimes you'll come across people that are like, I want 12 months emergency fund before I put my first dollar in the stock market.
Yeah.
Silly. The opportunity cost there is too high. Even going for 6 months from the bat is probably too high. Like, it's too much of an opportunity cost. Like, once you get to that 3 month point, you can keep growing your emergency fund, but do it in concert with starting to invest and do other things as well. Now, the final question is, what do you do once you've got an emergency fund? Don't invest it. That's the big thing. As tempting as it might be to have that pool of cash, you don't want the stock market to fall and for your emergency fund to lose 40% right as your car breaks down and you get fired from your job. Like, that is just a nightmare scenario. So put it in a high interest savings account. And we'll talk more about the best high interest savings accounts in Australia throughout this series. But yeah, that you just want to put it somewhere where it's safe.
I sit mine in my offset.
That also works. Must be nice having an offset account.
Sit in the offset. Don't spend it. If you can hide it, keep it out of sight as well, so you're not tempted to take it out. Number 2, when it comes to setting your foundations, is to make sure that you are protected through insurance. Just like an emergency fund covers you from the unexpected emergencies, insurances, and specifically life insurances, protect you from, larger unexpected events in life that can have a serious impact on your ability to generate income yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the logic is exactly the same. You don't want to go into debt or have to sell your investments because you have a medical emergency, because you have a car accident, or because you get sick or injured. So I don't think we need to labour the point. I think the important thing to stress is that in Australia, some of your insurances can get paid through your super. If you've just got the default super cover, you're probably under insured. And then there are some insurances that you need to pay for yourself outside of super, like health insurance and car insurance.
That's right.
If you do want to speak to an insurance expert, We work with the team at Sky Wealth. Phil, who runs that, has worked with both of us to improve our insurances because we learnt we were both woefully underinsured. So you can go to equitymates.com/advice or hit the link in the show notes and we'll put you in touch with Phil and the team. But I think the second thing is make sure you're across your insurances and make sure you're properly insured.
Let's get stuck into superannuation because, as we've said plenty of times before, it's the only free kick you'll get in finance. Do not ignore it.
Yeah, and what we mean by the only free kick is the tax rate on superannuation concessional contributions is 15%. Depending on how much you earn in Australia, your marginal tax rate would be 30%, 37%, maybe even 45%. And so the tax saving that you get with super compounded over 30 or 40 years will add up to hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And so you just don't want to ignore it. You want to make sure that money's being invested correctly. You want to make sure you're not paying too high of fees. And you want to make sure you don't have multiple super accounts because if you do, you will be paying multiple fees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some pretty simple. There's a tool, the ATO Super Comparison Consolidation Tool will be able to scrape the World Wide Web and tell you how many super funds you've got, and it will help you consolidate them pretty effortlessly. So I think that's the starting point.
Now, if you want to link to that comparison tool and all the resources we speak about throughout this 5-part series, download the handbook that's accompanying the series. You can get it on our website. You can get it in the show notes. You can get it in the YouTube description. Honestly, you won't be able to avoid it. That's how popular it's going to be. So, Bryce, once you've consolidated your super, what else can we do to make sure our super is optimized for 2025?
Make sure that you're happy with the performance. Do a bit of a comparison with some of the other large super funds against yours to ensure that you're at least in a super fund that's performing well. There are plenty of comparison tools. Those will be in the handbook. And then similarly, think about making additional contributions. If there's anything you can do, as Ren said, that it's a tax environment that benefits putting in extra money. So think about doing that.
Nice. And then once we've got our super sorted and we're happy with that, once we know we're properly insured and we've started building our emergency fund, the final thing and the biggest thing, and in some ways the hardest thing I think that we can do to build a strong financial foundation is getting out of debt.
Yeah. In fact, I would probably put this above your emergency fund because you if you're saving an emergency fund but still paying 20% interest on a credit card, it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah. Get
rid of the debt and then focus on building the emergency fund. Because debt is the biggest handbrake on your financial success. Consumer debt, that is. For two reasons. There's psychological reasons and financial reasons that it pulls you back. Think about financially the interest that you're paying on consumer debt, upwards of 20% on some credit cards. Like, it's just wasted money. So clear that so that you can actually then start deploying into investments. And then psychologically as well, it becomes harder and harder to pay off your debt as that feeling of debt snowballing increases.
Yeah. Now, there's a distinction that people make in the finance world between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is debt that doesn't help you build wealth, and it generally comes with a higher interest rate as well. We're talking consumer debt here, personal loans, credit cards, and the like. Good debt is debt that is used to build wealth. Generally, with one big exception, that debt could be tax deductible. Residential mortgages for owner-occupiers is the big exception. And so you can start to think that, good debt is okay because, you're using that debt to build wealth. But bad debt is the stuff you want to get rid of. There's obviously an argument that you should just try and clear all debt. But I think when you're thinking about clearing debt, because it's all good and well for us to just sit here and say, pay down your debt.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And so in terms of strategies to tackle it, there's two main ones that we've come across that we think are useful. And in my opinion, the right one is the one that works for you psychologically. So there's the expected return, and then there's the snowball method. Expected return is to take all of your debts and the interest rate that's charged and line them up from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. And you should start by paying off the highest interest rate first, because that's the one that's most detrimental to your financial position. And so if a credit card is 20% and then a personal loan is 15% and a car loan is 7%, you should pay them off in that order, regardless of how big the loans are, just because you're going to be better off.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. The other way is the snowball method. Dave Ramsey over in the States, he really made this quite famous. He suggests, rather than looking at the interest rate, you should line up the debts by their size, smallest debt to largest debt, and start by paying off the smallest debt first, because that momentum that you'll build, that feeling of accomplishment to cross one off the list and to work on the next one, that psychological success will motivate you, and that success will snowball. So if you've got the credit card, the personal loan, and the car loan that I used in the previous example, the personal loan might be the smallest, then the credit card, then the car loan, and so you pay them off in that order. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Like, the main thing is just
clearing it,
having a plan and clearing it. And again, it's easier said than done because of cost of living crisis, inflation, and the like. But
one thing that I found super useful coming out of uni, where I had a fair chunk of credit card debt, was taking advantage of balance transfers to a new credit card where they gave 12 months interest free.
Yeah, nice.
Take the interest free period and just commit to getting it paid off, or as much as possible in that period, because it kind of ticks both of the boxes that Ren just spoke about. Psychologically, you'll feel great, and you're not getting interest on it. So like every dollar you put in is going towards paying off that debt.
And psychologically, it also puts you on the clock. It's like, I've got 12 months to really just get myself out of this hole.
Yeah. So it kind of focuses you on paying it off. So very important that you kind of don't progress from this foundational part until you've paid off your debt and started thinking about your emergency fund. But that brings us to the end, Ren. Yep. We've laid the foundations. Throughout this series. We're going to be then building the house on top of it. And next week, we're looking at our budgets, mastering our money flow, spending, saving, and investing. A reminder that there is a handbook that accompanies this series. There'll be a link in the show notes. This episode, there is a checklist to help you walk through each of the 4 foundational points that we just went through. And remember that with Equity Mates, you never invest alone, so please share this with your friends who are also thinking about starting 2025 financially fit. But we're going to pick it up next week, Ren.
Sounds good.